What would you say if a cop walked up to your window right now and tried to keep you there longer than the ticket? Because one bad answer can turn a 2-minute stop into a full-blown investigation. And the wild part is, the best move starts with just 5 words. Before I reveal the exact 5 words, hit subscribe so you can find this video again when you actually need it on the side of the road. And tap like right now because what you learned today could save your own case later. Here's what you're about to get. You're going to learn the 5 words that force the moment into the open. You're going to learn the exact line that blocks a "mind if I take a look" search. You're going to learn the one sentence that shuts down casual fishing questions. And you're going to learn what to say if the officer orders you out anyway. Because, yes, that part matters too. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the same pattern keeps showing up. Drivers who stay calm, say less, and use the right words usually get through faster. Drivers who try to charm, argue, explain, joke, or overtalk usually make it worse. Here's the reality. This is not about being rude. It's about not handing over your rights for free. A traffic stop starts simple. Maybe you rolled past a sign. Maybe your tag light is out. Maybe you were speeding a little. But the danger is not always the ticket. The danger is what comes after the ticket. Most people have no idea that the stop is supposed to be about the traffic reason first and nothing more unless police get a real legal reason to keep digging. So what do most drivers do? They talk too much. They answer every random question. They agree to a search because they think saying no looks guilty. They keep chatting after the warning is already done. That is how a basic stop turns into "step out of the car. Do you mind if I search?" or "hang tight while I run my dog." Listen closely because this is critical. You do not win these moments by sounding smart. You win by sounding calm, short, and boring. The first move is the one your whole title is built on. When the officer has your documents back, or when the reason for the stop is done, you ask one thing. Here's exactly what you say. "Am I free to go?" Word for word. Memorize that line. Not, "Are we good?" Not, "Can I leave now?" Not, "So, I'm not in trouble, right?" You say, "Am I free to go?" Those 5 words matter because they force the stop into a yes or no moment. Either the officer is done with the traffic reason and you can leave, or the officer now has to make clear that you are still being detained. Let me show you exactly why that works. Police often keep a stop alive by making it feel casual. They hand back your license, relax their voice, and then slide into more questions. Where are you headed? Anything illegal in the car? You mind if I take a quick look? A lot of drivers think the stop is still normal, so they stay in that conversation. That is the trap. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. If you ask, "Am I free to go?" you make the officer define the moment. If the answer is yes, you leave. If the answer is no, now it is clear you're being held, and that matters later. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Rodriguez v. United States, the court said police cannot drag out a traffic stop longer than needed just to chase other crimes unless they have real suspicion. In plain English, they cannot keep you there just because they feel like poking around. And in Ohio v. Robinette, the court said officers do not have to tell you that you're free to go before asking for consent to search. That is huge. It means you need to ask the question yourself. You need to make the moment clear with your own mouth. Bad way? Most drivers say, "Yeah, sure, what's up?" Then the stop keeps going, the questions keep coming, and the officer starts building more reasons to hold you. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Am I free to go?" Then the officer has to either end the stop or openly say you're still detained. Watch what happens when you use it right. If the officer is done and has nothing else, that question often ends the whole thing fast. No extra small talk. No drift into random topics. No opening for you to talk yourself into trouble. Here's the reality. These 5 words are not magic. They do not erase a warrant. They do not cancel real probable cause. They do not stop a legal arrest. But when this is just a normal stop and the mission is over, they put the stop where it belongs. Short, clear, finished. And yes, tone matters. You do not bark it. You do not smirk it. You do not challenge with attitude. You say it the same way you would ask for a receipt. Calm voice, hands visible, no sudden moves. If your documents are still being checked, wait. If the officer is still writing the warning, wait. But once the traffic reason is done, that is your line. "Am I free to go?" That one sentence can save you from the extra 10 minutes where everything bad usually starts. Have you ever had an officer keep talking after the ticket part was clearly over? Drop a comment below and tell me what they asked next. The second move is what you use the second a search comes up. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Keep it clean, keep it short, keep it calm. Not, "I'd rather you didn't." Not, "Do you have a warrant?" Not, "I know my rights." You say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." That line matters because consent is the easiest shortcut police get. If you say yes, or even something soft like, "I guess so," you just gave away your best protection. Let me show you exactly why this is so powerful. A lot of drivers think police need to warn you that you can refuse. They do not. In Schneckloth versus Bustamante, the Supreme Court said a search can still count as voluntary even if the person did not know they could refuse. Read that again in plain English. If you casually agree, the law may treat that as real permission, even if you never understood what you were giving up. That is why this line matters so much. You are creating a clear record. You are saying no, calmly, directly, with no wiggle room. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it is simple and clean. There's no confusion about what you meant. There is no maybe he nodded argument. There's no she seemed okay with it story. You said the words, I do not consent to any searches. That gives your lawyer something solid later if the stop goes bad. And yes, this is 100% legal. You are allowed to refuse consent. Refusing consent does not create probable cause by itself. It may annoy the officer. It may make the mood colder. But you still do not hand over your rights, just to seem nice. Bad way. Most drivers say, I don't have anything, so go ahead. Then the officer gets inside your car, opens bags, checks containers, and now your whole life is on display. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer either stops asking or has to rely on some legal reason other than your own permission. Watch what happens when people skip this line. The officer asks in a casual tone. The driver laughs a little. Maybe they say, Sure, I've got nothing to hide. That sounds harmless. It is not harmless. That can be the whole case. Once consent is given, it becomes much harder to fight what happens next. Your refusal does not guarantee they stop. They may still search and claim another reason, but if they do that, at least you did not help them. At least you did not become the reason the search became easy. And remember this part. If the officer says, if you've got nothing to hide, why not let me look? Do not debate. Do not explain. Do not get emotional. Just repeat the line. The officer, I do not consent to any searches. Same tone. Same words. Same calm face. The more you explain, the more you risk feeding the stop with extra facts. Short is strong here. Clear is strong here. You're not there to win an argument. You're there to protect your space. The third move shuts down the questions that keep stops alive. Here's exactly what you say. I choose to remain silent. Word for word. That line sounds powerful because it is powerful. You still give your license, registration, and insurance when required. You still follow lawful orders, but you stop feeding the investigation with your own mouth. No guessing games, no long stories, no, I only had one drink. No, that's my cousin's bag. No, I was in a hurry because that talking is what turns little problems into big ones. Burkham vs. McCarty matters here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said traffic stops are different from a full station house arrest, but what you say on the roadside can still matter. That means your roadside words can still hurt you even when the stop feels casual. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the stop starts moving away from the traffic issue and into fishing questions. If an officer asks, where are you coming from? Have you been drinking? Whose stuff is in the back? You do not have to solve their case for them. Bad way. Most drivers say, I'm just being honest, officer. I had 2 beers. Then the officer hears admission, smells fear, and suddenly the stop gets much longer. Good way. Smart drivers say, I choose to remain silent. And the officer gets fewer words to twist, fewer facts to stretch, and fewer doors to open. This is 100% legal. You can politely decline to answer questions. And that does not mean you become hostile. Your tone is everything. Calm face, hands where they can be seen. No sudden reaching, no arguing law on the shoulder. You're not trying to beat the officer in a debate club. You're refusing to build evidence against yourself. That is it. Clean, simple, safe. Here is where drivers blow it. They think silence makes them look guilty, so they fill the silence. They joke. They overshare. They try to act extra friendly. But silence feels awkward for you, not for the law. Silence is often safer than a story. Former prosecutors know that. Defense attorneys know that. Good cops know that too. And when you pair this line with the first 2, you become very hard to fish through. Am I free to go? I do not consent to any searches. I choose to remain silent. Those lines work together. One pushes for the end, one blocks consent, one shuts the question trap. 90% of drivers do not know what comes next. And this next part is where a lot of roadside stops go sideways. Stay with me, because this may be the piece that keeps everything calm. The fourth move is for the moment, the officer says, step out of the car. A lot of drivers think refusing that order protects them. It usually does the opposite. Here's exactly what you say. I will comply. I do not consent. Word for word. Then you step out calmly if ordered. You do not yank your door. You do not argue through the glass. You do not make the officer drag you into a control fight. Pennsylvania versus Mims matters here. In plain English, The Supreme Court said an officer can order a driver out during a lawful stop. So if you try to turn that into a standoff, you're picking the wrong battle. Bad way. Most drivers say, "No, I know my rights. I'm not getting out." Then the stop turns tense, backup comes, and now the officer is focused on control. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I will comply. I do not consent." Then you stay safe, you do not resist, and you still make your legal position clear. That line does two things at once. First, it keeps you from adding a problem. Second, it tells the record that your compliance is not permission. That matters. If they ask to pat you down, search your pockets, or start moving toward your car, your words are already on the record. You obey the order to get out, but you still do not volunteer your rights. Former police officers confirm this. Calm compliance lowers the chance of force, while clear non-consent protects you. And this is where people confuse strength with stubbornness. Real strength during a stop is not chest beating. It is control. It is not giving police a reason to say you became a threat. Step out if ordered. Keep hands visible. Lock in your line. I will comply. I do not consent. That is how you stay safe. So now you have the full frame. First, ask if you are free to go. Second, refuse consent to search. Third, stop answering questions. Fourth, if ordered out, comply without consenting. That whole system works. It matches the law instead of fighting the law. Now let's tie the law together. Rodriguez versus United States says police cannot stretch a traffic stop longer than needed for the traffic reason unless they get real suspicion of something else. That supports your line, "Am I free to go?" Because the stop is limited. Schneckloth v. Bustamante says, consent searches can count even when people do not fully understand they could refuse. That is why you must say no clearly. Pennsylvania v. Mims says, officers can order you out of the car during a stop. That is why your best move is calm compliance, not roadside resistance. And Robinette reminds you that police do not have to volunteer the words. You're free to go. You ask. They answer. This comes from Supreme Court rulings. When you put those cases together, the tactics make sense. You're not slick. You're staying inside the rules while making the stop shorter and cleaner. Now, picture a real stop with your own car and lights flashing behind you. The wrong way starts fast. You're nervous, so you talk. You give a life story. The officer asks if there is anything illegal, and you joke, "Not that I know of." The warning is done, but you stay chatting. Then comes the search request. You say, "Sure, I've got nothing to hide." Now your car is being opened up. What should have been a 2-minute stop turns into a full roadside mess. Now the right way. You keep your hands visible. You give documents when asked. You do not volunteer extra stories. When it looks done, you ask, "Am I free to go?" If they say yes, you leave. If they push, you say, "I choose to remain silent." If they ask to search, you say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." If they order you out, you say, "I will comply. I do not consent." Same calm tone every time. No arguing, no smart mouth, no panic. The officer gets fewer openings, fewer admissions, fewer permissions, fewer chances to stretch a simple stop into something bigger. That matters. It means you stop helping the stop grow, and that alone can change everything. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when an officer claims they smell weed. Subscribe right now so you do not miss that one. It is very important. For a lot of drivers, that is the line between going home and getting charged. Let's lock this in. When the traffic reason is done, you ask, "Am I free to go?" When they ask to search, you say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." When they start fishing with questions, you say, "I choose to remain silent." And if they order you out, you stay calm and say, "I will comply. I do not consent." Those lines matter because your rights are strongest when words are short and clear. You do not need a speech. You need a script. Hit subscribe for the next video. Smash that like button if this just gave you a plan you can actually remember. And drop a comment telling me which line you're memorizing first. Stay safe out there.